in my long uh, healing journey that's still going, I have made a lot of mistakes, and it seems like all the issues stem from one thing, which is excess. So doing anything in excess causes causes a problem or exacerbates an existing problem. I mean, even psychological excess, which is sort of a bit harder to explain. Obviously, excess in eating is an excessive amount of food or drug or substance or whatever. But there is an excessive way to think about things, which is an ideological way, which I'll get into a bit later. But in terms of food, I can see that my gut issues, whatever it is, IBS, SIBO, whatever's in there, whatever's causing the issue, leaky gut, um, it it comes from living a life of excess. I have a quite an addictive personality. Um, was a lot worse when I was younger. I was using it towards far more negative things when I was younger. I come from drinking and drugs and things like that, and partly that stemmed into food as well. So, I mean, I always ate a lot when I was younger. I was never fat, but I, ate a lot, especially at night for some reason. I just eat tons and tons of bread. But then I got older and um, started to try to lose weight because I was going to the gym and I wanted to look good, all that sort of stuff. So I started counting calories, and then some of the advice from back then was that you would do some kind of deficit for 500 calorie deficit a day for 6 days a week, and then on the seventh day eat whatever you want. So it's essentially a planned binge. So that eat whatever you, because of all the restrictions, that eat whatever you want day was pretty pretty enjoyable day. Pizza, ice cream, whatever goes. But unfortunately, it can cause some kind of an addiction to binge eating. Your body's been restricted and it just wants to experience the binge. It wants to be satisfied. It wants to shove itself full of a lot of calories and fast. And that can become an addiction. That can become an urge that's created, and then you want to do it more and more. So I did struggle with that for a fair while. Um, and I believe because of the excessive amounts of unhealthy foods like refined sugars and oils and all of the combination and the tons of calories, that's where the issues got a lot worse. It does seem like that anyway. And then when I started to notice the histamine issues was when I was working for a boxing gym, and I was getting prepared for one of the amateur fights that I was doing, and I practically just ate tuna and beans all day, every day for a long period of time. I think even months. That was all I was eating really, and they're both high histamine foods. So and that's when I started to notice that the heart issues, the palpitations, and all that started to get worse and worse around that point. And that's obviously excessive. We're not designed to eat tins of tuna and bloody beans all day, every day. So another issue caused by an excess amount of something. And then the skin, I'm not sure, that just seemed to progress over time. I did use a lot of sort of skin creams and stuff like that, shampoos to get rid of it, so I didn't really see the progression. But I can tell that if I do eat a bunch of shitty food in the past, the skin did get significantly worse, so that the eczema sort of spread and everything. So excess of anything is the cause of issues. So it's the same with thinking. If we think about um, anything in an excessive way, not necessarily thinking about it a lot. What I mean by that is any ideological type psychological patterns, like, um, for example, carnivore. The ideology is that we're only to eat meat, 100% meat, and that's it, and that's the ultimate diet. It'll heal everything, and you'll be happy forever. I mean, that can stick, and the advice that these people give you when you've got an issue is eat more carnivore foods. And I mean, um, it just doesn't seem accurate or even beneficial. Same with vegan, obviously, it's not even a complete diet because it's missing essential nutrients. But it's the same thing. They're so ideological about their passion for animals or whatever that they will just stick to it regardless of health. And that's an excessive form of thinking that will damage health. And it's going to, I made a lot of these kind of mistakes on my healing journey. Rather than listen to the way food affects me, I listen to my external and internal ideologies that um that had convinced me that they were the way. Lately, I've been just trying to listen to my body more and more. Um, and an app actually that I wanted to tell you guys about. I'm obviously not getting paid for this, but it's called Cara, Cara. I've been using that to track my symptoms. I recommend it. It's pretty good. There are some things missing in it. I'd like to see some graphs and sort of more associations made, but it's quite extensive, completely free, and it's been really helpful. I've identified a few things that cause issues for me using it, so I do recommend having a look at it. But yeah, so um, I mean, it follows on from that a life of not excess but moderation, which is obviously the pretty common advice. Moderation is everything, but especially with food, if you just moderate everything, um, so you know it. Yeah, I mean, a moderation of everything should lead to some level of healing, but I mean, I don't know if we're exactly designed, in a sense, to eat small amounts of food all the time. I do still believe in larger meals, maybe once or twice a day, or even every couple of days if you can maintain it on a very healthy diet. But anything unhealthy should be moderated. So, I mean, meat doesn't really need to be moderated. To a degree, you probably shouldn't be eating it constantly all day. You need, and I guess that comes to a moderation of feeding and fasting as well. So you're not, so eating small amounts of food all the time isn't moderating eating. It's just eating all the time excessively, even if it's small amounts. So there needs to be moderation in all its forms, which is there needs to be a moderation of fasting and eating and the types of food that you eat, especially with obviously unnatural foods, refined foods. Um, so yeah, I think key is listening to the body and the way it reacts, ignore ideologies, and moderate everything.